All right, cool. I hope it works. All right, so this morning I want to go over AZ 500. So there's going to be 3 sessions this morning over AZ 500 certifications. I guess I need to mute my computer. So we're going to have 3 sessions. We're going to go over, we're going to go over Microsoft Learn, the modules, to, let me see, 500. We're just going to do that together. We're going to go through the, yeah, the learning path. So we're going to do the first part. So these are quite long. I thought the whole thing was going to be 6 hours. Turns out the whole thing is way more than that. So we're just going to go through the modules one at a time. So this session is going to be one module. Next session is going to be the next module, and so on and so forth, so that we can, go through these together. And hopefully I'll be able to give you some insight into what professionals do. All right. Okay. Hide this. Okay, skill measures, identity. So manage Azure DDS Active Directory groups, AD users, administrative units. So really there's administrative units in Azure AD. Well, see, I guess administrate, not OU. AD users and directory groups. So basic thing that you would do on site, on premise, but with Azure. Let's go. All right, Active Directory, multi-tenant cloud, blah, blah, blah. For application developers, Azure AD focus on building applications by making it fast and simple to integrate. Yeah, so that's one good point. If you are an application developer, Azure AD is awesome because you don't have to manage identities. And given how many times in the news you see leaked data, leaked email addresses, leaked things like this, it's easier. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my dog is barking. 1 second. Okay. Given how many times you see leaked data, leaked email address, all that stuff, having Azure manage those for you and just having to worry about just the integration is a huge thing. You only have that connection between Azure and your application that you have to worry about, and not the whole identity. So that's very practical. So there's different editions of Azure AD. So there's the free one that you get when you have Azure. This is the default one. That's the one I'm using right here, the free one. You have 365 apps. So if you have an Office 365, Microsoft 365, sorry, that's new. Microsoft 365 license for an email address or an application or whatever, you then have the Microsoft 365 directory. And then you have Premium P1 and Premium P2. They each add additional layers. So I would say the basic thing you would probably need to remember for the exam is free gives you just like the most basic you could have. So B2B and access and 500,000 users. Microsoft 365 adds 365, but then you have to remember between P1 and P2. I think this was actually part of the Azure Administrator exam. So what I would remember is just P2, identity protection and governance, and whatever else that is not either basic Office apps and protection and governance is going to be the premium features. So conditional access, group management access, hybrid identities, and premium features. So that's really how I would remember it, as opposed to learning every single feature. But yeah, that's yeah. So okay, let's see. Oh, cool. That actually, yeah. So that's basically what they were saying right here. What I was telling you about. I should have read this, but yeah. And then you have pricing. Actually, that's a good point. Let's look at the pricing for each of those so we get a better idea. Yeah. So Office 365, the Microsoft 365 one, is free because you're already paying for the whole Office license, Microsoft 365 license. So it's included as part of the cost. So that's why it's not listed in the cost. But then 6 and 9 per month. I don't think you will have to remember the prices. I mean, you will know that obviously one is more expensive than two is more expensive than one, but besides that, I don't think you need to remember much more than that. But that gives you an idea of where you stand. So if you want to enable that for practice on your AD, yeah, think about it. I may do it for this so that we all can be together. You can see it, but I definitely will not keep it. Right, Azure AD and Active Directory. Yeah, so there's. I'm just gonna go to the table. So cloud versus on-premise, obviously. Yeah, designed for HTTP and HTTPS as opposed to LDAP queries. REST APIs versus Kerberos. SAML, and there's no federated service. So you can only, basically what it means is you can only have AD accounts, right? You can't import accounts from outside your organization into your Active Directory. That's basically what this means, more or less, because of OpenID. Yeah. OAuth for authorization, OUs for authorization, federation services. That's like 1-to-1. I don't know. Group policies, but federation services. So basically, what it's telling you here is that instead of having all your policies into one place like you have on-prem AD, because on on-prem AD, the group policies apply to users and machines, right, to your objects in your directory. Here you use different services for different identities. So your machines that you have would be controlled through endpoint.microsoft.com, Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Your users would be controlled through the Azure AD. I mean, they're all in the same place, but access control federation, yeah. And then flag structure, as opposed to having organizational units and being able to treat it like directories. So flat structure is nice because everything is the same place, but when you get to tens of thousands of objects, it starts becoming search based as opposed to browser based. So yeah. Azure AD, you manage. Okay, so Azure AD is a managed service. You manage only your users, groups, and policies, deploying ADDS with virtual domain services, DS domain services. Oh yeah, it actually says it here. With virtual machines by using Azure is an infrastructure as a service deployment. In an infrastructure as a service deployment, you manage the deployment, configuration, virtual machine patching, and the backend tasks. Okay. I hear you. Investigate roles in Azure AD. Okay. Limit use of global administrator. Yeah, so the idea is don't have global admins. Same thing everywhere, really. Don't have global admins ever. It's not a good thing. I do run as a global admin. But yeah, limit that use. There's a ton of roles. There's a ton of built-in roles. I'm not gonna go through every single one of them, but um, basically they created roles for you so you can manage users and people in different applications and all that stuff, and it's very granular. But you can also make custom roles if you need to. I think it's actually part of the exam to do that. So, all right, deploy domain Azure domain services. So domain services is really the connection. Okay. Active Directory Domain Services provides managed domain services such as domain join, group policy, lightweight directory, Kerberos that is fully compatible with Windows. I'm good. How about you? uh, okay, fully compatible with Windows Server Active Directory, which is the one that's on-prem. You use these domain services without the need to deploy, manage, patch domain controllers in the cloud. Azure Domain Services integrates with your existing AD tenant, which makes it possible for users to sign in using their existing credentials. You can also use existing groups users to secure. Okay, so from what I understand, this is basically, maybe that's what they said. I'll investigate. Similar, it's important to know what the differences are using Azure. Okay, so it looks like it's basically the cloud version of Azure AD. See, one thing I didn't realize it wasn't that. Is it creepy if I like watching you study? No, that's actually. I hope people will come here and watch me study. It's not like I'm just like sitting there not saying anything. But it's not creepy at all. Otherwise, if it was creepy, I would not have made it public or asked people to join. So no, all right. Yeah, if I don't do this, if I don't make the live stream, the odds of me doing this on my own and going through it are very, very small. So I have to do it, and that's my motivation to do it. I can't get out of it. This morning I was like, oh, I don't want to do it because obviously I don't want to wake up. And then because I have this, I have made this commitment before, and now I have to study. So I would recommend you do that too. Just get people to force you to study. All right, Azure DDS replicates identity information from Azure AD, so it works with Azure AD tenants. Tenants that are cloud only or synchronized with an on-premise Active Directory domain services environment. Thank you. Thank you. Even if you weren't here, I would have to do it because I committed to this, and people will watch it after. So there's no getting out of this for me. The same set of Azure AD domain services features exist for both environments. Okay. Okay, so basically you have your AD where you keep your identities. You have Active Directory where you have your backend, and here this is where you manage your apps and servers and all that stuff with I would say pretend Active Directory. All right, benefits of domain services: simplified deployment experience. Azure AD Domain Services is enabled for your Azure AD tenant using a single wizard in the Azure portal. That's true. I've actually done that to domain join machines. It's very simple. Just click, 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 synchronize. I guess we're gonna have to do that. Integrate with Azure AD, so you get all your identities, groups, and attributes from your Azure AD tenant. Oh yeah. New users, groups, and changes to attributes from your Azure AD tenant or your on-premise AD domain services environment are automatically synchronized to. Yeah, so everything gets synchronized to the domain services. Use your corporate credentials and passwords. They're the same. You can use your corporate domain join machine, sign in interactively, or over remote desktop. Yeah, so you can use it to. Because when you join a machine to the domain, then it goes to that domain controller for that machine and checks authentication. Now it means that you can just use that domain services as your authentication proxy, whatever you call it. Yeah, it supports NTLM and Kerberos authentication. If you remember in the previous one, it said that Azure AD does not have Kerberos or NTLM. So this is really a middleware between Azure AD and your machines. High availability. Okay, yeah. It's cloud. Everything is high availability. Create and manage AD users. Okay. Okay, cloud entities. All right. Client identities. So cloud. Sorry, it's 9. I don't want to wake up. Cloud identities, and that's why I have my trusty Red Bull. Cloud identities. The users exist only in AD. Obviously. So that's if you go into here, create your user. That's the one. Directory synchronized identities. So that's when you synchronize with an on-premise Active Directory. And guest users, which are users that you import into your directory that are not native, that come from other identity providers. All right. Manage users with Azure AD groups. So you have security groups. Oh yeah. So you have security groups. They're basically the same thing as your groups in on premise. If you've dealt with security groups in Azure in Active Directory, same thing. The Microsoft 365 groups, the one additional thing to the Microsoft 365 groups is that you get to control these Microsoft 365 services with them, right? So it does. I do not know that the security groups give you access to the Microsoft 365 groups, and don't see that it says, yeah. This option is available to all users as well as admins. That's interesting. So this one, security groups, you need to be an Azure AD admin. The Microsoft 365, apparently anybody can do it. Guess we're gonna have to try it. Okay. I mean, I'm sure it's Microsoft. I'm sure it's correct. But all right, it's 3 different ways you can assign rights. Assign. So when you give it specifically. Dynamic users, that's your dynamic membership rules to automatically add and remove members. That's pretty nice. So for example, if you're like, oh, if you have an international office, right, multiple locations, and employees will move transfer from one office to the other. So, for example, I'm in Boston and I transfer to Germany, because my company works in Germany. Now, if I want to have on-site specific access to on-site specific resources that all employees have access to, right? It's annoying because I would then take the Caroline object and I will have to remove it from the Boston office and I have to put it in the German office. I know that German and Boston are city and country, but yeah, I would have to move it in the Germany office, and then it's a manual process. Whereas you could make it so that based on my city, so now I'm now in Munich. I'm now in Munich, and now I have access to the Munich office resources by just virtue of my city changing. So that's nice. Same for department, right? So you can say IT will have access to these resources, but then this employee moves to a different department, and now they no longer have access to these resources. So it's very practical because it allows you to lifecycle access as well as identities. So very nice. Dynamic device security groups. Rules to automatically add and remove devices. Same thing for devices, right? If you have access based on the device, you can do the same thing. All right, so if my device is registered as an IT device and I move to customer service, then whatever my device would have access to now changes to what the customer service device would have access to. Have you given any thought to which group you need to create? Would you directly assign or dynamically assign membership? Yeah, that's what I said. And for the directly assigned groups, that's for like, hey, I need access to this application, right? As a person, I need access to this. So that's the nice thing. And it's nice because I think they synchronize on premise. So that means that if you want to have some logic into your access, then you could. Oh, that's good. I might do that at work now. I might request that at work because if it's synchronized back to on-premise Active Directory, then we're golden, right? We're golden because you can say a new user, you get access to all this data by virtue of being in this department. So pretty fun. I didn't think of that, and I might make some changes at work. All right, configure Azure AD administrative units. Okay, an administrative unit is an Azure AD resource that can be a container for other Azure AD resources. An administrative unit contains only users and groups. Administrative units restrict permissions and a role to any portion of your organization that you define. You could, for example, use an administrative unit to delegate the help desk administrator role to regional support specialists so they can manage users only in the region that they support. Oh, I know I'm weird, but yeah, that's okay. Let's go to Azure IT. Administrative units, they're here. Okay. I'm gonna play with that because what are we? 8 of 12, and there hasn't been any hands-on stuff. Let's play with that. I'm just curious about this. I've never played with that. It's yay. All right. Assign roles. Okay. User administrator. to me, add oh, and you can add users in here. Fun. That's exciting. Okay. So basically what I would have to do is go here, add to users, and I say, yeah, sure, my user 9, and we say 3, passwords to, yeah, sure, I don't actually care. Okay, this department, let's try some of that. So she's here. Let's do something else. Let's do Caroline 2. I'm gonna give her ID. Is there a problem? What am I missing? Oh. Okay. Now we go to our administrative units. Caroline, we add a member. And we say this one. Select. Alright, and now she's in here. And because she's in here, I can now manage her. I'm gonna have to do more complicated access. Caroline's administrative unit. Roles and administrators. Here's our administrator. Okay, let's see what they're telling us. That's good to know. Oh, okay. You need an Active Directory premium license for each administrative unit admin. And Azure Active free license for. Okay. Well, then I figured out why I could not do that. Turns out I do not have a premium subscription, and that's why I can't do it. I don't know if I can. Yeah. Has access to view, set, and reset authentication methods. Okay. Manage group. Can reset passwords for people. Can assign remove licenses. Yeah, to the within the administrator unit. The administrator and administrator. And manage all users and groups. All right, passwordless authentication methods. Hello for Windows for Business. Windows Hello for Business. Biometric PIN credentials. That's nice. I wish I had that. FIDO2 key. That's a USB stick. My authenticator app. FIDO2 smart card. Yeah, you basically and temporary access pass. That's pretty cool. Yeah, passwordless authentication is amazing. Basically, the idea with passwordless is that you don't have a password. Your password is a second device. So, in order to, it's kind of two-factor authentication, kind of, except you need some sort of physical device, right? Either the authenticator app or a smart card or a pass or a key. So that means that somebody may know your account, right? You know my email address, But because you do not have access to my second device, like don't even bother looking for password, dude. There's no password. Well, there is a password, but it's not anything I use. But in order to get access to my account, you need my device, or you need me with the biometric, right? Windows Hello for business. So yeah, pretty cool. Try this. Oh, there's an exercise. All right. Come on little window. Dude, are we good? All right, go. Cool. All right, let's go back to our, okay, Portal Active Directory. See, let's go back. You search for Active Directory. Yay. Overview page, license, Azure ID pricing page. Oh, right here. We already did that. And we looked at the features earlier, so feel free to go on your own. All right, overview page, and review how to create directories and how to switch between directories. And review the license pane information. Licenses. Oh, cool. Get started with license management, trial purchase groups users. See your bills, manage your purchase license, get a free trial. Oh, I'm not going to do that just yet. But yeah, you could get a free trial of I think 30 days trial for premium P1. So pretty cool. Licensed features. Cool. That's cool. Gives you all the features, and you can just be like, "Hey, try the premium." And see, there's some that are available for Office 365, Microsoft 365. So if you have a Microsoft 365 account, you should have access to those features right here. Okay, all products. What is that? Can I buy? Oh. Purchase services catalog. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. Manage users in group. Under manage, select users. Am I missing something? Oh, under manage. Select users. Okay, we have people. Review the different sources, such as Windows server environments, external directory. Sources? Where? What? Where'd you see? Am I missing something here? Is it here? I don't get it. What do you mean? New user? Is there a source here? Okay, that does, I guess, I understand. So the difference between Azure AD and domain services is Azure AD is really for web stuff, right? So, okay, let's go back. Azure AD contains your identities. It will store the users, the machines, the groups, all that stuff. You can use Azure AD to authenticate with web apps and things like that. So whatever supports REST APIs or OpenID, uh, and that's what it is. It doesn't really have much enforcement over the users and groups. The users, and it doesn't have much enforcement in terms of access and permissions, right? Um, Azure Directory Services, on the other hand, is um, think of it as the cloud version of Azure Active Directory. So it means that you can basically put your users in groups, in units. You can enforce policies on the users. You can join your machines to the domain, and then you can process authentication through NTLM and Kerberos, which are the authentication protocols that Windows machines use, um, which is not something you can do with Azure AD. So really, the difference is Azure AD is really more of repository slash cloud authentication system, whereas directory services is more for on-premise OS-based devices, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I explained it correctly, but yeah, that's really the difference, I would say, between the two. But they synchronize with one another. I don't know if I don't remember what they said, if you can make changes in directory services, then have them propagate through Azure AD. But if you make changes in Azure AD, it will go to directory services. So it allows you to, for example, you create a new user, you have your computer joined to Azure Directory Services, and your user is able to authenticate by just talking to, by having the server just talk to the directory services. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully it's not more confusing now than it was when you asked the question. Okay. So I don't have P1, so I can't really do, and I don't have anything really pre-populated. Why? Okay. Is there a pre-population script? Okay. I guess I'll try to develop a script for this. Yeah, I wish Microsoft would give us something like this, because it's like, look at this. And it's like, well, you need to have data in there. Well, thank you very much. That doesn't help me. Anyway, done with the rant. All right. Invite the choices for new guest user. Add. new guest user. What are the choices? Invite user. Okay, so you can basically invite a user with their own email address and they will come into your directory and they can authenticate in there. And see, I think one thing that's important to notice is if you invite a guest user, there's no password. There's no password. Yep, absolutely. That's Microsoft for you right there. So there's no password. So what this means is that if you invite a guest user, you do not manage their account, right? You manage some of the data as they appear in your system. So for example, you can give it a job title, a department, a company name, but you don't actually manage that account. That account is managed somewhere else. Now, you can just manage the metadata and the access around that account. Whereas if you do create a user, now give me, yeah, there you go. Now you ask me for password. So wait, maybe I messed up, maybe I misspoke. Yeah, no, I was correct. It doesn't give, you don't manage guest users. You just manage the metadata and the access around that user. Okay. Create user and invite user. Review identity, group settings, and job info. Yeah, you can actually give it a group. Why is okay? There's no groups created in this, so. But if there was, you would be able to see it. Manage the groups, review group types. Yeah, discard groups. New group. Yeah, the security and yeah, I don't have access to dynamic groups because I don't have P1. But then as users, we'll create that. And now we should have a test users group. Once it refreshes, with the membership type as assigned. Is that what I did? Oh, I don't have. Yes, that's where the P1 comes in with dynamic. Okay. All right, I'll do dynamic stuff later. The portal, manage security MFA. Security. Stop auto-populating things. Why do you want to populate things with DNS? All right, MFA. Oh, you need a premium for MFA. Okay, whatever. I don't have that. Test MFA. Yeah, I have MFA, but you get the. Okay, now let's check. Let's do this. Your organization is considering multi-factor authentication in Azure. Your manager asks about secondary verification methods. Which of the following options could serve as secondary verification method? Phone call, email link to verification website, and Microsoft account verification code. I mean, a phone call would work, but I don't see anything about phone calls in there. So I'm debating between the code and the call. Your organization has implemented multi-factor authentication in Azure. Your goal is to provide a status report per user account. Which of the following values could be used as a valid MFA status? Enrolled, I think that's the only one. We'll see. If I get it all wrong, I get it all wrong. Which of the following options can be used when configuring multi-factor authentication in Azure? Block user if stolen password. Configure IP address outside the company. Internet that should be blocked. One-time password for user that is locked out. Fine. Oh. I just activated the premium trial. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna say one-time bypass for user that is locked out. I mean, this one also sounds familiar, but whatever. When configuring Azure AD roles, which of the following roles would allow the user to manage all the groups in a tenant and would be able to assign other admin roles? Security. Help me, people on the live stream. Guess we can just go back. I mean, global admin, definitely. You know what? I'm just gonna say global admin. Global admin can do anything. So, yeah. Which of the following methods enable you to automatically add or remove users to security groups? Yeah, when in doubt, global admin. Which of the following methods enable you to automatically add or remove users to security groups or Microsoft 365 Dynamic? Dynamic user? I would say dynamic group. Dynamic user? Which of the following methods? Automatic add? What? What? All right. Please tell me I have. There you go. Okay, dynamic user. Oh, the membership type. The membership type is a dynamic user. Okay. Okay. All right, let's go back to that MFA now that it's activated. MFA. Security. MFA. Well, whatever. But let's just do this quickly. Let's just create a new group. We're gonna do dynamic user security group name IT people and a dynamic query. And we're gonna say add expression. Oops, no. Okay. I actually don't need this one. Choose property, which is department, is equals IT, right? And we save this. And if we create this, we should have 2 users in that group, right? When it refreshes. IT people, and we have 0 users. Come on. Maybe it's about when it. Because the department is IT. Did I not put a department? Yeah, IT. Come on. Come on, Microsoft. You're better than that. No members. What's the query? How do I change group memberships? Dynamic membership roles. Users at department. Is there another different department property? Nope. I mean, I don't know what's happening here. Okay. All right. Let's try this. MFA. Is Azure ID all about GUI and clicking, or is it possible to actually create users and groups, etc., using PowerShell? And the answer is yes. You can do that with PowerShell, and you would basically do this. You would go in your command line. You would say PowerShell. Okay, you would go into PowerShell and you would do connect Azure ID, connect dash Azure ID, and then you have the same commands that you would have for Active Directory, except it's like get dash AD user or new dash get dash AZ AD user, right? Or new dash AZ AD user. Dash AZ AD user, right? Yeah. So it's the noun part of the command would be AZ, like Azure, then AD, so Azure AD, and then you have like the user and all that stuff. See, it's right here. Azure Active Directory, right here. So put that link in here in the chat so people can see it. I'm not going to display it because it's a complicated link, but yeah. Okay. But you need a subscription. I have multiple tenants in here just so that I can have a clean Azure AD to work with. All right, let's submit this. No, actually, I want to try this MFA one last time. Why? I just, whatever. Check your answers. Okay, right. Enrolled is not a valid option. Okay, phone call. So enforced or required? Is that what you want? Required? Enforced? We're gonna enforce it. Woo! 200 XP. Yes. Whew. Sign in, save progress. I'll sign in later. Cool. So that was really it for this. We're just going through this module, those units. Those were very good questions from Happy Turtle. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for coming. Being the only one, I guess, coming. Yeah, so that was fun. That's very basic. It took an hour, but honestly, if you don't talk, if you don't ask questions, if you could probably do that. How long do they say it takes the whole thing? 59 minutes. Yeah, I mean, you've seen this. It probably takes you like half an hour, maybe less to do this. So yeah, pretty fun, pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna hang up now, and there's another live stream where right after this at 10:30, where we're going to go over this one, implement hybrid identity. So that's gonna be fun, an hour. So, all right, I'll see you in the next one.